Okay, we'll get going on the post-spawn cranking thing. And like I say, this is a big topic to try to condense into 50 minutes. So if you have specific questions, please feel free to ask. But first, we want to talk about shallow or deep. Are you going to crank shallow or deep? Well, in this area, right around Orange, Texas, where you're fishing a lot of backwater cypress trees, creeks and ditches and that sort of thing, it'd be more shallow cranking. Toledo Bend, Rayburn, and your reservoirs be more deep cranking. So when you talk post-spawn cranking, which one are you really trying to target? It really depends on the body of water, and most of you can probably relate, if you're on a reservoir, if you're on a river, that shallow versus deep. And in that, you want to say, well, what do you call shallow and what do you call deep? I really classify shallow as 10 feet and less, and deep 10 feet and more, over 10 feet, out to 20, 25. I know where I grew up on Lake Murray in South Carolina, it's very similar to Rayburn in quite a few ways. When it had grass, they've got rid of all the grass, they sprayed it and put grass carp in there, so it's not nearly the fishery that it once was. But when it had vegetation, it really reminded me a lot of Rayburn. And the thing that amazed me there, and I seem to notice this at Rayburn the few times I was there right during the immediate post-spawn, those fish would go from their spawning area right out to really deep water, 20 and 25 feet deep, and it was almost like they didn't want to stop in between, and it was really, really amazing to me that you'd catch them for several weeks up there spawning in those spawning type areas, and then they would immediately go to the outside of the grass and leave that inside edge, not stop in the middle, but go out there really deep. So then I would use your bigger baits that will get down there really deep, your bigger crankbaits. But in other places, those fish spawn and they hang around up in that shallow water until that water temperature gets really, really high. And in that case, I'll use square bill type baits, still cranking, still covering a lot of water, but using those type baits, not these 25-foot baits. So many people, I think, just immediately want to associate post-spawn cranking with baits that run 20 feet deep. And those fish, in some places, they do seem to get deep immediately, but most places those fish will hang out in those spawning areas and you want to fish your shallower crankbaits, and then they might go to your mid-range drops or creek channels and that sort of thing, say 10, 12 feet deep, and then go on out there deeper as summer progresses. But you just have to, judge the body of water you're on, and what are we really, really talking about? Because in different parts of the country, and even from year to year, post-spawn will change. So it's really key to trying to develop a pattern anywhere in the country to know whether you're in the pre-spawn, during the spawn, or post-spawn time frame. And that changes, like I said, from year to year, obviously from different parts of the country. We'll start out with the Bassmaster Elite Tournament Trail in March in the south. And those fish will be spawning, or maybe even some post-spawn fish in March. And then we'll usually kind of progress north, and we may be in New York in July, and those fish are spawning. So it really depends on where you're at. Then obviously it depends on how hard the winter is, what's going on. So you really need to try to determine if it's really post-spawn or if it's still pre-spawn. And there's no set one day when it all happens or doesn't happen, but the majority of the fish are what you want to try to relate to, okay? So knowing when the post-spawn actually does occur, and there's several things, location, like I said, where you are in the country, and then also, the water temperature, how harsh your winter was. So the water temperature is something we really want to key on. I heard Todd mention, and I agree with him 100%. To me, pre-spawn is like 55 degrees and below. Once the water temperature is 56 and above, I'm thinking those fish could be spawning. Now here's something really, really important that I think a lot of people don't, really stop and think about when they're thinking water temperature. If the water temperature is 57 degrees and it's falling, like it was a couple days ago, we were out on Toledo Bend, then I'm not thinking about those fish going into those spawning places and that they're about to spawn. If the water temperature is 57 degrees and steady or warming, then that's a total different scenario. So really and truly, when you start looking at water temperature and what that water temperature is, you need to think about the trend of the water temperature. Is it rising or is it falling? If it's 57 degrees and falling, I'm going to throw some totally different baits, totally different crankbaits, your flat size and your really tight baits, rattle traps and that sort of thing. Versus if it's 57 degrees and rising, I'm gonna throw baits that, like square bills and baits that move a lot more water.
I hope you enjoyed the preview clip, and for more like that and the entire collection, subscribe to the Bass University TV. And if you want the tackle that you see on there, I want you to go to the Bass University Tackle Shop, powered by Tackle Warehouse, and click right here, and it's all at your fingertips.
Welcome to Bass University TV, an online video training course where you'll learn champion bass fishing techniques from pro anglers Pete Glusek, Mike Iaconelli, and their talented special guests. From on the water to in the classroom, you'll learn sound techniques and strong fundamental bass fishing skills. Watch hours of video content on multiple topics at your own pace for a low monthly fee. Cancel at any time. Information is power in the sport of fishing, so learn from the very best. Subscribe to Bass University TV today.